大家好，我叫阿德，欢迎到我的华语角，跟我一起学中文吧。Hello everyone, I am Ada, and this is my Chinese corner. Now, I know that Chinese can sometimes be very daunting. Myself, I also studied Chinese. I started in uni, and then I moved to Taiwan where I lived for 12 years and I completely assimilated there. And that is also why my Chinese has a bit of a Taiwanese accent. Well, a lot actually, but can't seem to get rid of it. But it's all Chinese, whether you have a northern Chinese accent from Shandong or Beijing, or you have a Taiwanese accent, it's all Chinese. And I just want to share my experience with you and my knowledge, and hope that you can also improve your Chinese. I'm going to tell you 3 things that your Chinese teacher has probably never told you. The first thing is about the pronunciation, and the pronunciation is key. I've heard some people, even people who teach Chinese, say, don't worry about the tones. The tones will come later. So learn as many words as you can, as many characters as you can. You will improve your pronunciation along the way, which is total nonsense. You first have to master the pronunciation before you learn anything else. I mean, it's okay to learn some characters and everything, but to be able to read and to also hold a conversation, your tones need to be correct. I'm not saying perfect, because there is no perfect in tones. There is just correct. Chinese has 4 tones, plus a neutral tone. And Chinese also has syllables. It is called a tonal language with monosyllabic morphemes, if I said that correctly. It just means that it's one character, so one picture that has one syllable, like ba or mao or gao, and then with a tone attached to it, and that is the word. You can also string those characters or syllables together to make longer words and to make sentences, of course. But mastering those tones is very important. I would say it's the most important part of learning Chinese, because there's only a limited amount of syllables. They don't add syllables every year. It's just that, okay, these are the syllables of Chinese and that's it. And then you have to know the tones. So if you know that, then you can start learning the characters, because the character has that sound, and now you know the sound. Because what use is it if you know maybe 5,000 characters but your pronunciation is rubbish? You won't be able to read something or even read out loud to something, to somebody, or you won't be able to make yourself understood. Let me illustrate this, how important tones are. Because if your tones are not correct, it can lead to many awkward situations, and sometimes also, I wouldn't say disastrous situations, but maybe in business, when your Chinese business partner doesn't understand what you're saying, that can have very bad consequences. Somebody just asks you what you like to do in your spare time. He can ask you, 你下班之后喜欢做什么? Or he can ask you, 你有什么爱好? What are your hobbies? Then you say, 我喜欢, that's I like, 我喜欢看书. Thinking you've just told him you like to read books. Well, now he thinks you are a lumberjack and you like to cut down trees. Because 砍树 means to cut down trees, cut tree. You should have said 看书 which sounds different. Maybe some people say it sounds the same, but once you learn Chinese and you learn the tones, then you will also understand the difference. A side note I want to make is that you don't need to rush your Chinese. It's okay to speak slowly. I hear many Westerners who learn Chinese speak a little bit fast, because maybe they think, okay, yeah, you might be tempted to rush it, and so that people will not notice that your tones are a bit off. But trust me, people who know Chinese, they will hear it no matter how fast you speak. So work on your tones. That's the first. In my channel, I will offer some more videos to you to practice the tones together and to help you with your pronunciation. Now we come to the second thing I want to talk about, and the second thing is the writing, the characters, because that is also completely different from what a lot of people are used to, because Chinese uses characters. And I've heard some people complain, saying that, oh, Chinese is so difficult. I cannot remember all those pictures, how to draw the symbols. Well, these symbols they call, or they're actually called characters, these characters are not that different from what we do. Before there was writing in this world, people just spoke. You had spoken word. And then people wanted to put those sounds into writing. In the English alphabet, we also have lines and we have circles, but in those lines and circles, in a specific order, they make a sound. For instance, the word cat, you have the k, and you have the a, and you have the t. And together they make cat. So I have to have three little pictures, a C, an A, and a T, next to each other in that order, and it's cat. In Chinese, it's just one character, and the pronunciation is Mao, with a tone attached to it. It's the first tone, Mao, and that also means that cute furry little animal. But it's all writing. And if you start saying to yourself, oh, this is difficult or this is easy, you start throwing hurdles in your path before you've even started. So what I always said to my students when I was teaching in the Chinese school, do not think in terms like difficult or easy even. It's just different, okay? Just remember in what order to write those lines, and then you'll be okay. Then we come to the third part, the characters. How to write them and how to learn them. I will make a separate video on how to actually practice the writing, but for now, what I want to tell you, what I want to stress, and this is going to be a little bit controversial maybe, learn traditional characters first. And you might think, what is he talking about? What are traditional characters? Some people think, mistakenly think, that simplified characters were introduced after 1949. People thought that, okay, the characters from the olden days, the traditional characters, were too difficult to remember. So we have to reduce the number of strokes. The strokes are the lines and the circles used in writing. So we have to reduce that number, and then it will be easier for the people to remember the characters. That is not entirely true. For some characters they did that, yes, but hundreds of years ago there was only that simplified, that simple form, and by simple I don't mean easy, I mean elaborate, not many strokes. You had the simplified form, and later on the traditional form, the more elaborate or complicated form, was introduced, because as words were added to the language, things are invented, you need new words, and because Chinese only has a limited amount of syllables, you ended up with a lot of syllables with tones, but not enough characters to go around. So they needed to fix those characters. So they redesigned the characters, like you would redesign a car or a phone maybe. And they redesigned the characters, and now they call them traditional characters. And trust me, it's not more difficult to learn traditional characters. In fact, it will pay off in the long run, because when you learn Chinese, you also have to learn about Chinese culture and Chinese thought. In traditional characters, you will see a lot of the history and the thought process that went into this character. And if you learn the simplified form, that usually is not the case. Let's take a very common and very easy one. The character for cart or car, something with wheels. 车, car. 车. The simplified form looks nothing like a cart. But if you look at the traditional form, you can see a shape. You can see a box, and then with two wheels attached, and that's a cart. And that's just an easy example, but there are many more examples. So learn the traditional characters first, and then you have a better understanding, a deeper understanding of Chinese. These were just 3 tips I wanted to share with you. I hope they were helpful to you. In my future videos, I will also talk more about the grammar. I will talk more about how to actually write characters and the fun you can have in learning Chinese, because it doesn't have to be all serious, and it's not a mysterious language. Everybody can learn Chinese. You just have to dedicate some time to it, and like with everything, you get what you put into it. And unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. No matter what some people try to tell you, Chinese just takes practice. So in my next video, like I said, we will also talk a little bit more about practicing how to write Chinese. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and please write in the comment section how long you've been studying Chinese and what you like about Chinese, and also how do you practice Chinese at home. These were my 3 things that I wanted to share with you, and hopefully it will be helpful to you in learning Chinese and improving your Chinese. Go out and practice your writing, practice your pronunciation, take a mirror, practice in front of the mirror. It's okay if you make mistakes, but yeah, just have fun studying, and I will see you in the next video. 继续加油!